I personally think Bym again rips up the running back position more than it rips up the wide receiver position, but we got to go through the top 30 running back rankings for Week 8 fantasy football. With all these bye weeks, it's going to be deep. And I'm doing everything I can to get us ready for Week 8, so please go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now, getting into our first tier, I've got Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, and McCaffrey. Luckily, our best three backs are all playing this week. And really order these guys how you want to. The way I rank them this week is based off matchup. I love the matchup versus Tennessee for Jonathan Taylor. He's obviously been fantastic, and the offense is extraordinarily efficient right now. Bijan Robinson, the matchup is second best versus Miami, and they're doing everything with him. This offense entirely runs through him, and McCaffrey is just, he's just getting workhorse role after workhorse role every week. I worry about the health. I'm knocking on wood every single time I talk about him. This week, I don't love the matchup. So he's at 3, but again, these guys are in tier 1. You rank them however you want to. Dropping down to our next tier, Josh Jacobs is at 4 and Devon Achane's at 5. So with Josh Jacobs, he's going to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers on Sunday night. And I've said this a couple times this week. I think this could be a low-key shootout game because I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to really show up to play. He's got a record on the line. If he beats the Packers this week, he'll beat all 32 teams in his entire career. So he wants to win this one. So I do think there could be a massive potential for a breakout, shootout type of game. But either way, Josh Jacobs, if it's not a shootout, and if it's like a 24-17 or 13 type of game, he's going to get in the end zone at least once. The guy's a workhorse back. He's not the most efficient this year. That's the one problem with Jacobs right now. Not super efficient, but he's still getting every touch out of the backfield, especially the ones that matter, which are right at the goal line, and the offensive line has done very well for him. Devon Achane at 5 at the Atlanta Falcons. I think the matchup is actually fine. I really don't worry about the Falcons defense, and I said this with the wide receivers when I was ranking Jalen Waddle. I think this Miami team, I've had them nailed for years. This is a team that is atrocious. They are horrendous in bad weather. Anytime there's rain, there's hail, there's wind, or cold weather, they're not good. But they are good in hot weather, like in Miami, or in a dome. That's why I think we're actually about to see a really big bounce back game from all Miami options. And of course, if that happens, Achane's right at the front of the line because the guy can score at any point. So the matchup doesn't bother me. I actually kind of like it because it's in a dome in Atlanta. James Cook's at 6 and Derrick Henry is at 7. And James Cook is going to Carolina to take on the Panthers this week. So these two guys, I will say this entire tier really, I'm projecting based off matchup. There's a lot of matchup projections in here. So you may look at James Cook at 6 and say, well, he hasn't done that well lately. You know, why is he this high in the rankings? I think this week they come off the bye week, they figure some things out and really get in touch with themselves. Maybe they did an ayahuasca trip or something like that to get in touch with their emotions and who they are as a team. All I know is that I really think that James Cook in this Buffalo offense will start to get back to the roots, which is that you give him the ball 20 times a game, you're going to do fine. And especially against the Carolina Panthers, who are without their starting quarterback, and just a team you're better than, I think that James Cook has a good game. And Derrick Henry, again, major projections here. Well, we did get some major news that Lamar Jackson returned to practice today. I've been on record multiple times this week. I think he's going to play. So I do think that Derrick Henry is going to be back in a game script that benefits him. That's why I like him over Javonte at 8, and I guarantee you people will be pissed about this one. I like Derrick Henry a lot this week because I think his team will be in a better game script, and I think that that's when Derrick Henry is at his best. I called him a buy low candidate before the bye week that they were just on for this reason right here. When Lamar comes back, they start winning more games. They start getting positive game scripts for him to run out the clock. And then Javonte Williams at 8. This is going to Denver, man. I think, again, this entire tier is based off matchups and projections based off those matchups. I think Javonte Williams against Denver, this is a rough game. I mean, it is a revenge game, and I do like revenge game narratives, but in Denver, this is a tough place to play, number one, and number two, it's against one of the top 3 defenses in the league. I don't think that Javonte is going to have his best game. I think Dak probably has a better game, and the receivers are better than the running back Javonte Williams is this week. And I think that with the involvement that we saw from Jaden Blue last week, if he starts to lose a couple steps, Jaden Blue could be very involved in this game. I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong here. But again, I'm so interested to see how this one plays out. If you post a poll about this on fsroundup.com to see what the rest of the community would do. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to type in Derrick Henry, then go to chat, start a poll, and then go to week 8. And I'm going to add Javonte Williams to this. And I want to see what everybody in here thinks. Go vote on this for free on fsroundup.com right now and start your own start sit poll for free, because I'm interested to see the results of this and what decisions you guys are dealing with this week as well. It's a completely unique feature, not on other sites. And I will tell you this, we were down for a day, so people need to re-add their accounts and recreate your account to start voting on these polls again. And I will say this, if you are a paid member already or want to become one, we dropped the price from $8.88 a month to $6 flat per month. You get the same elite benefits and tools to help you win this year, such as the automatic waiver wire tool, the top 250 rankings of mine on a weekly basis, and many other great features on the site. That's all dropped down from $8.88 a month to $6 per month. So make your account today, go recreate it, sign up for the premium subscription, because I guarantee you it's well worth the price at this point. Now, dropping down to our next tier, I've got Cam Skattebo at number 9, and DeAndre Swift is at 10. Now, I will say with Cam Skattebo at Philly, I don't think that they're going to have the same success that they had against Philly on Thursday night a couple weeks ago. First of all, that game was in New York. That was a big, change as far as environment in their favor. And I do think that off of last week, right, off of the Denver game, that's a crushing loss. And that kind of loss is going to crush the confidence that they had built up into that game. Had they come out and won, I might still be big on the Giants players. I'm losing a little steam on them this week because they lost in a brutal fashion, man. So I think that Cam Skattebo could have a rougher game, but with the volume he gets and just the energy that he has as a player, I've still got him at number 9 against all odds, in all honesty. And then DeAndre Swift at 10 at Baltimore. There's a couple different factors that go into me ranking him this high. So number 1, I love the matchup. At Baltimore is obviously not a matchup that should scare off anybody when it comes to running backs. The other reason is because this is the effect of bye-pocalypse. All these bye weeks are affecting these mid-tier running backs and raising them up in my rankings. So Swift, I would probably have him around 15 this week if everyone was playing. But I like him this week, I really do, because the breakout is starting to look really real. I mean, Ben Johnson came in before they went on their bye, said, yeah, I really don't like the way we've been running the ball. I take it personally. It's on me. We need to run better. Ever since he said that, a switch flipped, and they've been great running the ball. I'll go DeAndre Swift at 10. At 11, I've got Quinshon Judkins, and at number 12, I've got Rachaad White. So Quinshon Judkins at New England. Again, this is a weird week where I'm ranking him higher than I actually really want to, for a couple reasons. I like Swift over him, first of all. I think Swift is going to be more efficient in this game. He's got a better matchup. And I said this weeks ago after the Steelers game. Any smart defense just has to look at what the Cleveland Browns offense is with Dillon Gabriel, and they'll see what I see as a fan. All you need to do is stack the box to stop one guy, and his name is Judkins, and make Dillon Gabriel beat you through the air. I think that the New England Patriots will do that. But again, the bye-pocalypse has forced me to move him up higher than I would want him to be ranked this week. So he's at 11 here as an RB1, low-end RB1. I don't like it, but I do think that with the volume he sees, he's the centerpiece of that offense already, so you can't rank him much lower than this with all the bye weeks. And then with Rachaad White at number 12, I like Rachaad White to come back and bounce back this week. So we've already seen Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving ruled out this week, so that is going to definitely keep that opportunity open for him. Now, if you look at last week against the Detroit Lions, their entire offense couldn't move the ball. I don't look at it and say that was Rachaad White's fault, that they couldn't move the ball. I mean, they just couldn't move the ball either way. Baker looked bad. Everyone looked bad. So against New Orleans this week, this is a get-right game. The only disadvantage they're at is it's off a short week, but they're going to New Orleans. But I still think that they're in great position this week, and Rachaad White gets back in the end zone because don't forget, Tampa's offense is very high-powered. Saquon Barkley at number 13 and J.K. Dobbins at 14. Just to remind people, this is only because bye-pocalypse. Saquon Barkley would be around 20 if everyone was playing. It's not been good. And I don't really have to convince anybody of that. Because if you drafted him, you spent first-round draft capital on him. That is a very expensive price for a player who's averaging like 12 fantasy points per game. He hasn't been atrocious. It's not like he's just been, the worst thing ever to happen to your team. And at least he's not injured, knock on wood. But Saquon Barkley, man, they can't run the ball. They are inept right now running the ball. So I only kept him here because of bye weeks and because I think that there still is that little bit in there that's like, it's against his former team. They want him to do well. And I said this weeks ago when they first played the Giants, Saquon looked good against the Giants, and then they just stopped using him. Inexplicably so. So I don't know what happens this week, but it's weird in Philadelphia right now, and I've got him at 13. And J.K. Dobbins is at 14 versus the Dallas Cowboys. Matchup is great. That's not the problem. Problem is because R.J. Harvey becoming a little bit more involved on a weekly basis. You can actually kind of keep track of this on FSRoundup.com. The snap counts are starting to go more towards R.J. Harvey more consistently. Now, J.K. is definitely still the lead back. Don't hear what I'm not saying here because I am telling you guys that J.K. is the lead back. But with his involvement in the passing game, sometimes in short yardage situations, I do think R.J. Harvey could start to steal really good work in fantasy away from J.K., and that worries me, so I've got him at 14. Dropping down to our next tier, Rico Dowdle at 15 and Jordan Mason at 16. So with Rico, I had to think of a couple different things in my head based on what we saw last week. So last week was a basically even split between him and Chuba Hubbard. Now what we saw, if you watched the game, and I just watched that game yesterday, what I saw watching that game was they were just clearly the better team. Like, numbers obviously will back this up. Rico Dowdle was more efficient than Chuba Hubbard was, but they were just a better running offense when he was on the field. I think, for that reason, they'll start to give a little more to Rico Dowdle. Maybe it becomes more of a 65-35 split this week, and if that happens, I want him a little bit more than I did last week. So against Buffalo, I don't fear the matchup. Buffalo's defense has been bad. I think that Rico Dowdle, though, still is going to have Chuba as a thorn in his side, but not to the degree maybe we saw last week. Jordan Mason's at 16 at Los Angeles Chargers on Thursday night. Short week, you bump down the defenses in rankings, you bump up the offensive pieces in rankings. Now, the one problem I have with Mason, and he's the guy I liked during the offseason, Jordan Mason every week has been saved by a touchdown, basically outside of 1 week this year. So Jordan Mason, I do think of as a guy that is going to be a relatively consistent red zone option because their team is too talented not to get down there into range a lot of times. But I do think that if they don't against the Chargers by some weird reason, but since it's a short week, since it's against a defense that hasn't done well, I'll go Jordan Mason at 16. Kamani Vidal is at 17 and Jaylen Warren at 18. So with Kamani Vidal, I think that people can get discouraged by watching what happened last week with the Chargers. I think you need to keep something in mind, though. If you didn't watch that game against the Colts, he was the lead back. That backfield was his. And by the way, Hassan Haskins out this week. So that means they're going into Thursday night with practice squad guys. Nyheim Hines coming up to the roster. They have nothing outside of Kamani Vidal. He's going to lead the backfield. The problem is it's just Minnesota's defense. Even on a Thursday night, I get scared off by. So I do think Kamani Vidal, a little bit of a volatile play this week, but one I do think opportunities won't be a problem for. If you're going based off opportunities, he's a solid play this week. Jaylen Warren at 18 versus Green Bay. Like I said with the Green Bay matchup, I think this could be a very high-scoring game. Low-key shootout type of stuff. And I'll be honest here. I called Jaylen Warren a buy low earlier in the week, and I stand by that because if you look at the guy's fantasy points per game, he's done very well because he's getting the ball a lot of ways. He's a great pass-catching back. Always has been. But he's actually been really efficient running the ball the last several weeks as well. So Jaylen Warren is a guy I think is actually a really solid RB2 play. Not just this week, but actually moving forward. Woody Marks at 19 to round out this tier. Look at us go. Woody Marks, the roller coaster has been wild. Everyone wants to see it happen, but it hadn't happened. And then people dropped him after one big week and then a disappointment following up that big week. And I told people, do not drop Woody Marks. Now, you're probably struggling to get back on the waiver wire because he outsnapped in a big way Nick Chubb on that Monday night game in Seattle. This is probably going to be their lead back, and I will guarantee you this. Nico Collins probably misses this game. He went into concussion protocol, left that game early. That's going to increase Woody Marks' involvement because they don't have many other downfield options. And CJ Stroud's going to find himself getting rushed like crazy by the 49ers defense and checking the ball down to Woody. I like Woody Marks this week, actually decent amount. That's why he's at 19. Dropping down to our next tier. Bill Krosky at 20 and Alvin Kamara at 21. Now, I'm going to tell you guys this. There's a decent chance by the time you're watching this, Bill Krosky actually moves down below Alvin Kamara and Ramondre in this tier. Because Jaden Daniels, when I originally ranked this, I was planning on him playing. It has since come out that he is not going to play. So Jaden Daniels being out, Marcus Mariota being in, I don't know how it affects this offense necessarily, but it won't be good. And Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, my fear came out last week, which was Chris Rodriguez actually had some more work last week. After we all thought he was done for, he came back after 2 fumbles from Bill Krosky in week, 6? So yeah, he's, not alone anymore. He's the best, and he's clearly the most, used guy still. But I don't really like this matchup at Kansas City already. And number 2, I don't like this offense without Marcus Mariota. But Alvin Kamara at 21, I originally ranked it like this because Alvin Kamara, listen, hasn't been very good. And I do think it's worth noting that I've been saying for weeks, unless he's going to get 10 targets, it's not going to work that well. Now they're kind of being forced to do that. Kendre Miller tore his ACL, so that means that their new backup is Devin Neal. Now, maybe they give Devin Neal more work in the future, but I think this week is a very heavy dose of Alvin Kamara. So I think against Tampa's defense, it's fine. They're just not a great offensive team, so I can't put him much higher than this. But I think he's probably the best start that he's been all year so far. And then Ramondre this week at 22 to round out the tier versus Cleveland. The matchup, again, is in one hand a good one and in the other hand a bad one because they're really good against the run. Cleveland has been dominant, so that's the reason it's bad. But the other reason it's good is because I think New England crushes them in this game. I don't think that they can keep up with New England's offense, which is very high-powered. So I think a lot of the back half of the game will be Ramondre Stevenson running out the clock and just torturing them moving the ball. So I do think in that hand, it is a solid matchup. So I've got Ramondre at 22 for those reasons. Dropping down to our next tier, Chuba Hubbard at 23 and Breece Hall at 24. Now, I said this with Rico Dowdle. I think Chuba Hubbard is going to start to lose favor in that backfield. He's only here for a couple different reasons. Number 1, I still think he'll be involved enough to the point where he could be fantasy relevant, especially if he holds his role as a pass catcher, which has been a complete revelation for Chuba Hubbard this year, because last year he couldn't catch the ball worth a crap. But versus the Buffalo Bills, it's a good matchup. So it's not the matchup I fear. It's the fear of losing more work to Rico, because I think that's coming. So that's why he's at 23. And the other reason is because, again, bye weeks have to move up a lot of these types of running backs. Breece Hall at 24, same deal. This guy, ironically, this is how dysfunctional the Jets are. And I said this leading into the week last week. All signs should indicate that Breece Hall should be your guy and the centerpiece of your offense, especially without Garrett Wilson. They did the exact opposite. I mean, he left the game with injury, but apparently he's going to be fine, and they just decided not to play him. That just shows you the Jets' dysfunction. So even in a matchup against Cincinnati, it sounds good in theory, but guys, I can't express to you enough. Breece either needs to get traded out of New York, or you need to trade him off your fantasy team because this is going to torture you for the rest of the season if he's a Jet. Chase Brown at 25 in that same matchup. And then Isaiah Pacheco at 26. Chase Brown, again, moved up because of the bye-mageddon, and the matchup's really good. And I will say, last week I was right. Had his best fantasy day, but that's bad because his upside was still very minimal. They can't run the ball at the red zone. They have to throw all the time, and he really didn't get that much pass-catching upside. Maybe it changes, maybe it doesn't, but I'm not ranking him much higher than this, even in a bye-week situation. Isaiah Pacheco at 26 to round out this tier versus Washington. In theory, the matchup should be really good, but I will say this, keep your freaking eye on Brashard Smith. This guy is coming. And he's coming in hot. So Isaiah Pacheco, I see another potential red zone type of game for him because that's really what it comes down to if he ends up being good in fantasy or not, because he's still going to split the work. But I will say this as well, Kareem Hunt losing steam because Brashard Smith's coming up. Dropping down to our last tier, Tyler Algier is in the top 30. Yeah, and Tyjae Spears is as well. I put Tyler Algier here for multiple reasons. Again, Mageddon pushes up running backs. Number 2, though, I'd rather play him over somebody like RJ Harvey or Nick Chubb because the offense, I think, it's not that the offense is better than the Broncos. I don't think they are. But I do think that it's been very clear they like to give him opportunities at the red zone a lot. And just throughout the game, to give Bijan a breather, they'll put him in, and he does very well in his work. So against the Dolphins this week, that's a matchup that I could easily see him getting in the end zone. I'll take that potential upside. And then Tyjae Spears, I've got him over Tony Pollard, but you could rank him how you want to. Their backfield is basically split at this point, which is so bad for Tony Pollard. But I will say Pollard did pretty well as a receiving back last week. But Tyjae Spears is absolutely not even on his heels at this point. He's right there side by side with Pollard. Who's going to outrun the next guy? I lean Tyjae Spears because I've always just liked him better as a player personally, but I understand where people are coming from if you want to play Tony Pollard. Either way, the matchup against Indianapolis, not a particularly good one. And then our number 30 guy to round out the whole thing is Kyle Monangai of the Chicago Bears at Baltimore. I've already seen a lot of Kyle Monangai polls on FS Roundup. Keep posting them because I'm telling you where I stand. I don't know where the rest of the community stands. I've got him at 30 though because I think what we saw last week was Ben Johnson start to try to bring back that Detroit split backfield, and he's filling the David Montgomery role. And against Baltimore, I'll take that chance. If he was playing a team like the Detroit Lions, if he was playing a team like the Browns, or if he was playing a team like the Broncos, I wouldn't want this. I would not have Monangai here. But I think it's a good trial run. Once again, if they continue to give him that same work, it's the Ravens they're facing, and I think he could take advantage of it as long as the volume stays similar. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below. And if you want to see the top 30 wide receiver rankings for this week, click on this video right here.